2009 might go down as the worst year ever in the retail business, but that hasn't stopped Lindsay Gaskins from launching an entire chain of shops. Marbles, the Brain Store, first opened on Grand Avenue in October of last year. Locations in Skokie and Lincoln Square followed, and later this month, Gaskins will open her fourth store in Naperville. Marbles sells games, software, books, and other products aimed at sharpening the mind. The target customers are baby boomers trying to fend off the mental effects of old age and puzzler types who pass their time solving crosswords and filling in Sudoku tables. In those two groups, Gaskins' team saw a burgeoning market and virtually no competition.
We found a lot of interest in this space, and the science was so new, and every month there was a new article about mental stimulation and how you can change how your brain works. So we just kind of had this hunch that it would be something that enough people would be interested in.
But there's more than a hunch behind the Marbles storefront. The startup springs from the West Loop offices of Sandbox Industries, an $18 million venture fund founded by former executives of NutraSweet and Monsanto. Sandbox doesn't just invest in new businesses, it starts them. Founded in 2003, the firm aims to launch a few businesses every year, distilled from hundreds of ideas ginned up by Sandbox's 20-person operating team. Robert Shapiro, a Sandbox co-founder and the former CEO of Monsanto, says the idea behind Sandbox is to avoid falling in love with any one idea.
One of the things that's been wrong with the way corporations and entrepreneurs start businesses is they start a business. They get emotionally and financially committed to that one business. And their view of how you succeed is by, walking through fire and through brick walls and so on in order to get to their goal. The data on it are very clear that a huge percentage of those businesses will fail and people will lose whatever money they put in.
To avoid that trap, Sandbox takes ideas early and puts them through a rigorous research process. If it looks like there's a market and the economics work, Shapiro and his partners will invest a small amount for further testing. At every step, Sandbox is ready to pull the plug. Shapiro says giving up on an idea early, before anybody has sunk in too much time, money, or personal equity, leaves Sandbox with an understanding of what's really going on in a market and to take those insights into the next business idea. To Shapiro, that learning process is the core of entrepreneurship. At Sandbox, he and his partners have tried to create a world where the learning matters as much as the execution.
For me, a successful business plan is one that says, I can produce a lot of learning at a relatively low cost and relatively quickly. If you can do that, even if the idea you're trying doesn't turn out to be a winner, you'll have 5 more ideas in the course of that as a result of what you've learned about that consumer or that market.
That's exactly what Shapiro is expecting from Lindsay Gaskins' endeavors at Marbles. Sandbox hired Gaskins from Sears, where she spent 5 years as a product buyer. The 32-year-old came up with the idea for Marbles during a Sandbox brainstorming session. Market research looked promising, so Sandbox gave Gaskins $100,000 to test her concepts in kiosks at Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg. In 3.5 months at the mall last year, what Gaskins learned was that Marbles does not work in a kiosk. Consumers didn't seem to get it. Gaskins decided that the Marbles concept could only be proven in an actual store, a place where her potential customers could play with the merchandise and ask questions. So she found a space on Grand Avenue just off of Michigan. Following Shapiro's credo of moving fast and cheap, she spent just $35,000 building out the space. Despite opening in the teeth of last fall's financial crisis, the store was an instant success, restoring Gaskins' faith in Marbles and proving the value of evolution.
We could have just killed the business. It was very easy to say, this isn't working. We put a lot of effort into it. The customer's not responding. And I think coming back with a solution, let's turn over the next card. It's not that expensive to find out a little bit more. Let's give it a try during the holiday season. That was the kind of approach that I'd like to take with all of the problems that we have.
After the success on Grand Avenue, Sandbox funded the rollout of 3 more Chicago stores. The goal is to create a national brand. Next year, Gaskins will seek outside funding to bankroll more store openings. For now, she's intently focused on the Chicago stores. In December, she and the Sandbox principals will take a hard look at Marbles' numbers. They expect every store to throw off a 10% operating margin, they want a sale from 1 out of every 4 shoppers, and for the company to be able to break even when it gets to 10 or 12 stores. And in keeping with the Sandbox credo, Gaskins is learning as she goes. She figured out that the Marbles customer asks a lot of questions, making it critical for the staff to know their stuff. Gaskins requires Marbles sales clerks to play every game before it hits the sales floor. And she's moved her first store manager into a store director's role, charging her with ensuring the staff and environment in each store are exactly as Gaskins wants them to be. She's also trying to keep an open mind about Marble's future. Maybe a retail chain is not the ultimate best use of the brand. Maybe it's better as an online store or as a puzzler's community. But Gaskins clearly doesn't view Marble's as an experiment. And while Shapiro and Sandbox may be able to view her progress with a certain clinical detachment, Gaskins is proof that, for the entrepreneur on the street, it's never easy to separate her business from her soul.
At the end of the day, we need to be successful, and Marble's the Brain Store has to figure out how to do that, and I hope I'm the right person to get it to that stage, And I feel that the creativity and the openness that they allow me by saying, let's learn, if that didn't work, that's a learning experience for something else. That allows a little less pressure, but at the same time, I feel, a lot of pressure to continue being successful so that we can continue to learn.